Hi, I'm Joe and welcome to the channel and welcome to another Inspired By video. If you're not familiar with this series, what I like to do is write an original piece of music, either inspired by a genre or an artist or just a specific style of music. And what I do is I break down each individual guitar part for you in hopes that you can incorporate those techniques that make up that style into your own playing. And this one we're going to take on how to play electronic dance guitar. Oh, that sounds kind of weird. Let's jump into the track and then I'll break down all the guitar parts for you. Before I break down this track, I do want to issue a public service announcement. Apparently, a ladybug has broken into the studio here and is wreaking havoc. I hope I'm not in harm's way, but just so you know, we do have the kittens on board. Well, now they're sleeping, but well, hopefully they'll protect me from this crazy ladybug that's flying in here, and hopefully this won't be too distracting for the lesson. So let's talk about electronic dance music. The excitement obviously comes from the bass drum and a bass guitar line. So when you're playing guitar parts for this genre of music, if there is guitar parts, lots of times it's just synths, but if there's guitar parts in here, you really want to think about having a complementary role to the overlying feel of the song. Not to get in the way of either the melody lines or the vocal samples as you heard in the opening track there. You kind of want to be behind the scenes. So some parts that you can think about doing are adding like pad sounds, like other keyboard type sounds, and that's what I did with the first two guitar parts. You can add energy by having a little bit of a grungy guitar, and in this case here in this track, it was doubling the bass line. And then you can have a little bit of, a lot of this dance music kind of harkens back to funk music and even old R&B music, so we can have a little bit of some like funk guitar parts happening in here, a little plucks and plinks. I'm not sure that's even a word. But anyway, you could have that in here. So that's the other guitar part as well. It's hiding in this song. So the main song starts off with the bass line, and it's basically happening, what we're doing is we're playing it in A minor. So let me first go over the chords before I get into the bass line. So we basically have an A minor, and then we're coming up to a C, to a G, to an E minor. So A minor, to C, to G, to the E minor. And so the bass line basically is starting off with a little bit of a riff, if you will, starting off the E note. And then goes to the A minor. So we're playing off of the E, which would be kind of like the fifth of this A minor chord. Down to the D, to the C. So this is all in the minor pentatonic scale. And what I was doing there, because this is also the guitar part too, I'm kind of doing a pull off. I'm picking the note, and then pulling off to the D, going to the C, playing the D again, and repeating that figure. And for the last time, I'm going to walk down to a B to get to the A. And then the bass line, if you wanted to know what that was, is basically just playing A to B, C, to C, D, G, G, A, E. So I'll play that without talking. that's going to be important to know, because when we get to the grungier guitar sounds, we're really going to add some energy by emphasizing that bass line with some power chords. So the first guitar parts, though, again, are kind of being this nice little pad that's happening underneath things. And what we know is we have the A minor chord to a C, to a G, to an E minor. So all I was doing was I put on a univibe type of sound, and I'm playing basically off of this A minor shape. But I'm only interested in these two notes, which is C and E. And why am I focusing on those two notes? Well, two reasons. One, that's obviously part of the A minor, but also those notes make up part of the C chord as well. So I'm going to stay on that figure for both of those chords. And all I'm doing is a little bit of a hybrid picking and plucking the notes at the same time. Now when we get to the G, I'm going to stay again on these two strings, the G and the B string, but I'm going to do the figure of the G. You might be familiar with this G power chord. Sorry, G bar chord. And I'm just going to use these two notes, though, that are in it. Basically the B and the D. So this is a little bit of voice leading, right? We have the C going down to a B, and we have the E from that first chord going down to a D. So we have this. So now it's going like this from the beginning. That's over the A minor, over the C. Now we get to the G, we're going to drop those down. And now when we get to the E minor, what's really interesting is all you have to do is basically go back to that E note. But again, it's a little bit of voice leading. Going down to the G. And then this figure here, we're going to take the D back up to the E. And that's really all it's doing. And what's nice about this is by having that univibe sound on, it's vibrating and adding just some motion to the track instead of it just kind of being plain like this. It really doesn't have a lot of life to it. Remember, the idea is to inject energy into this track, so we're really trying to push things forward. So go ahead and add a little bit of a modulation effect to give that motion to your guitar parts. When we get to the second half of the song, right before we go into something different, we're going to basically playing that riff. So that's something that we already went over in the beginning of the video. Now for the second part of that song, like if you want to consider it maybe the chorus, what this part is doing is going to stay now on these notes that we already played up here, which is just the C and the E. And we're going to do something different. We're going to actually stay on that for the whole chord progression. You'll notice in this song the chord progression really doesn't change. There's a riff, the same chord progression and riff, but what I tried to do with the bass line is, and also these other guitar parts, is just to make things a little bit different. So instead of playing the thumping, for that, I basically was doing octaves on the bass. And that gave it enough difference in the song so the listener knows there's a different section happening. So you don't have to always use different chords. It's actually getting a little bit silly now where most songs don't have different chords in it. But this kind of just shows you, be creative with your arrangement and your guitar parts and your bass lines to make the difference in the section still. You still want to have separation so the whole song doesn't sound exactly the same. So all I'm doing though, instead of now changing every time the chord goes down, I'm adding a little bit of a funky type of part where I'm going to go. And what I'm going to do there is kind of do that old blues trick where you tweak that slightly, a little bit of bend. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play the A and kind of staccato mute it. And then there's a little bit of a line out of the A minor pentatonic scale, starting with the E. And it just adds a little bit of a lead line in the middle of the song here that's actually doubled by the second guitar part as well. And all it is I'm playing the E, sliding into my G, going to a D, to the E. And this is a very common move that you can do with your guitar parts, is repetition is our friend in music. It lets the listener grab onto the guitar parts and things that you're playing or the melody line or whatever you're creating. But what you can always do is kind of switch things up. Maybe on the fourth time around, you'll notice that I'm changing it up a little bit, right? We have this 2 times, 3 times. And the fourth time, I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to do this lick. But it's enough repetition to get the listener used to that. Switch it up. And really just to end off guitar part 1, all I'm doing is playing off that riff again. And then hitting the A minor chord at the end. Now the second guitar part basically is filling in the gaps of the chords, but an octave higher. What do I mean by that? Well, for the A minor, we were playing up here the C and the E. What I'm going to do is going to play the A and the C up high over the A minor. So when you put those notes together, you basically are going to get the full chord when you put those two parts together. And what I also did was I panned them hard left and hard right. So on one side you had the lower guitar pad sound with this univibe sound happening, and on the other side you had the octave higher. But what's going to be interesting or different here is I'm not going to specifically follow the chords exactly the same for the second chord. What do I mean by that? Well, you remember for the A minor, I was able to stay here because those are chord tones, the C and the E. And for the C, those are still chord tones. Well, up here, I'm actually choosing on the A minor to play the A and the C, but also for the C, I'm keeping my fingers exactly where they are. And you might say to yourself, well, Joe, there's no A in the chord of C. It's an open G. And you're right, but what I'm doing is I'm adding an extension, adding a little bit of color. And because it's an octave higher and separated enough, it's not really rubbing against anything else happening in the music. And what I'm creating here is a C6, which is a very pretty chord. So over that A minor, playing that note, over the C, playing the same thing, and then for voice leading, I'm going to take basically the A here and move it down to a G, and the C, I'm going to move to a B. And so now I'm playing a G and a B over the G chord and over the E minor. So if up high, it's basically going to be just this. And that's really all that's happening for this guitar part, except when we get to doubling that lick. So basically I'm playing the same type of thing. Just an octave higher. So the same notes, E, sliding into the G, to the D, to the E again. To end the song, all I'm going to do is going to hang out on that A minor chord again, just playing the A and the C. So for guitar part 3, we're going to introduce a little bit like a funk line, just to add a little bit of excitement going into what you might consider to be the chorus of the song. And what we're going to do is we're going to stay on the top part of the A minor chord. And we're basically going to play an A minor chord, A, C, and E, all on the G, B, and high E string. But what we want to do is we want to slide in from the B into the C and try to basically hit the first 2 notes first, and then come up to get that high A. It's a little tricky at first, but this adds a little bit of that little percussive part to the song. And then all we're going to do is double the line of that guitar, but staying up on this octave here. Maybe we'll slide in. I forgot to slide in. So E, slide in from the F sharp to the G, D, E. And that's all that part is. And the same rule applies here. You notice that I'm repeating, and then doing something different. So the final guitar part 4, is basically doubled, panned hard left and hard right. And this is just basically going to be a little bit of a dirt guitar. Kind of dry, there's really no reverb on here. Just to add a little punch to the bass line. And all it's doing is doing power chords, copying the bass line. If you remember, the bass line is just... So now we're going to do that same thing, but now with power chords. And you'll notice I'm actually sliding up. I'm not really strumming all of those. There's a slide up, then I'm picking it. Slide up, G, slide up, down to E. Instead of this. It just sounds a little bit smoother to my ears if I just go. And this part also does the riff down low. Just to end the song off. And that's all the guitar parts for this song. Hey, what I'll do is I'll leave in the description down below all the tracks for this song. So I actually will give you 2 tracks. One, the whole full band arrangement, and the other one will just be all the guitars stripped away. So you'll have basically the bed of the whole band, but minus the guitar parts, so you can practice these parts along to those tracks as just a free tool for you to use. Now remember, when you're writing this kind of style of music, or even in any genre really, think about the guitar as a supporting role. You notice that for some key takeaways from this lesson would be, make guitar sounds that have motion in them with that univibe sound. You heard I was adding motion there, but they were also longer parts, kind of like a pad, like a keyboard pad, just kind of laying low behind the scenes. Then you can always have these grungier guitar sounds to add a little bit of punch and energy to the mix. And you notice between those 2 sounds how different they were? I mean, actually all 3 sounds were a little bit different. I didn't tell you this, but on that funky part, I basically moved things around, had a little bit of a chorus on there, and a little bit of a more like a slappy type of reverb happening, I believe. And what was happening here is this. I'm contrasting the guitar parts. So you'll notice we have these nice little univibey clean sounds, followed by some real grungy sounds. And they're just on different ends of the spectrum. And what you're trying to always do in your mix is fill up the different frequency ranges. We already have the bass happening down low, so I wanted some more of a mid-frequency type of guitar sound, so we have a little bit more grunge thing happening there. And then we also have those higher guitar parts up high with the more of the univibe sound. And also we have a chorusy type of sound on another part of the guitar. So again, just try to think about the whole frequency range and try to come up with guitar parts that fit in there. This way you're not stepping on the toes of either other instruments in the song or even yourself when you're creating these guitar lines. Well, that's another Inspired by video down. I really hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you actually found some value in it that you can apply to your own music. And if you did, would you do me a favor? I'm really trying to grow the channel. Would you help me out by subscribing down below, hit the like button, and knock on the bell? All those things really do help me out, and I am so grateful for your support. As always, I wish you a great day, and I'm sorry for the dinging of my phone.